Well, I was raised in a Christian family, and my dad one day pulled me inside his bedroom and said, "Look, Rob, you need to make a decision what you want to do with your life." I was about 3 or 4 years old, and he said, "You can either follow Jesus for the rest of your life and go to heaven, or you could just go to hell, and it's really up to you." So I thought, well, I want to go to heaven. So my dad led me in a prayer to ask Jesus to come into my life and to commit my whole life to him. I've been following him ever since. Probably when I was about 7, 8, I don't know, somewhere around there, we had a knock on the door, and there were a couple guys dressed in white shirts and ties talking to my mom. And my mom just said, "Thank you, we're not interested," shut the door on him. And I came up to her and said, "Mom, who are these guys?" And she said, "Oh, those are Mormon missionaries, and they think you got to get to heaven by your own good works." And I said, "They really believe that?" And so I went down the street chasing these guys down. I hid behind the bushes, my buddy's place, and then when they were coming up the driveway, I jumped out and I said, "You can't get to heaven by your own good works." And one of the guys pulled a knee and opened some scripture, probably the James 2 passage, "Faith without works is dead," and I just kind of nodded my head and ran home. And that was basically the beginning of my ministry to Mormons right there. Well, about 7, 8 years later, I was invited by my uncle, who was pastoring in California, to be a part of their high school summer service ministry, which was, they do a lot of different things during the summer. We'd go down to Mexico and work in orphanages and preach the gospel down there. We'd go around, we'd take a bike ride down the California coast. We'd go witnessing at the beach. We would just do all sorts of stuff, you know. One of the weeks was going up to Utah. And so the youth pastor was going to Talbot Seminary at the time, and he ran into a guy who later became my director, Kurt Van Gordon, of the Utah Gospel Ministry. And so he brought him down, and he trained us in Mormonism. We read the book by Marv Cowan, Mormon Claims Answered, and so we got all prepared, and they put us on a big bus. There were probably about 40 high school students, somewhere around there, and then we came up to Utah, and Utah County down here, and they kicked us out. We started going door to door, and I was just, that's when I really got to learn about Mormonism, was the one-on-one interaction I had with them all day long. So I'd come back at the end of the day, my head was just throbbing, because I was just intensely thinking about these issues, and I just couldn't believe how these guys could believe this stuff that for me was just seemed so obviously wrong, you know, and the rationale they would use, to the twisting of scripture. I was just really fascinated by it, and so I just got hooked on the ministry up here. I started coming up every summer to do varying amounts of time up here. I fell in love with the Mormon people. I fell in love with Utah and all the outdoor activities to do up here. And so I ended up going to Biola University to do undergraduate in biblical studies there, because I wanted a solid biblical background, because I knew from basically the time I came up here at 15 years old that I wanted to be up here doing ministry to Mormons. And so went to Biola, and then I went to Talbot to do their theological studies program, and then went to San Diego State for a philosophy degree, and then came back up to Talbot to study under J.P. Moreland in his philosophy, religion, and ethics program. So I wanted a good background in philosophy, the Bible, apologetics, and it was all geared toward being a good missionary. I even started a doctoral program at the University of Utah. I was there for about 7 years and ended up bailing out on that program because I met my wife down in Dallas. We started dating, and we had a baby, and I got just complicated with life, and so I let that go. But the goal was, for me, was never to be a great philosopher. The goal was to use philosophy and my studies to be a good missionary to the Mormon people, to have good reasons for my faith, and to persuade them, as Paul says. And so I moved up here back in '96 and got a brain-dead job, basically delivering auto parts for a couple of years or so. And then I became a full-time missionary in the summer of '99 with the Utah Gospel Mission. Kurt Van Gordon was with him for a while, also with Russ East in Utah Partnerships for Christ. And then about 6 years ago, and that was about 2005, I picked up this ministry from a friend of mine and called Courageous Christians United. And of course, living here in Utah, my emphasis is Mormonism. I married an ex-Mormon gal who loves the Lord. Her family, by and large, is Mormon. And so we're trying to reach out to them and the whole state. We're trying to convert the whole state to traditional Christianity. But I reach out to different religions, philosophies, but the emphasis is on Mormonism. Our main website is mormoninfo.org, and we also reach out to Jehovah's Witnesses with jwinfo.org. We also reach out to Muslims with musliminfo.org, and we have a basic apologetics website that describes our ministry, courageouschristiansunited.org. And so we do a lot of ministry up here. We do a lot of, I like the real confrontational type ministry, so I'm out on the street about every week in front of Temple Square, or lately, given the cold weather, we've been going during the day, so we've been going to high schools on Friday afternoon, and I carry a big sign that says mormoninfo.org, josephly.com. They both go to the same site, and I advertise those sites. I get in dialogues with people over the email, on Facebook. We go down to this yearly Manti pageant in June, spend a week down there training Christians to share their faith and also sharing the gospel with Mormon people. We will have teams come up occasionally. We'll work with teams and show them around, different door-to-door ministry, go down to BYU and talk to students down there. So we do a lot of confrontational type ministry. But on the other hand, we also have room for a more non-confrontational type ministry, a more personal type ministry. Every month, on the second weekend of the month, we hold a ex-Mormon meetup. Okay, so this is based off of meetup.com, and you go there and you find whatever you're interested in. And in our case, it's Mormonism, ex-Mormons. Well, you don't have to be an ex-Mormon to go there. As a matter of fact, last fall we had a gal that was an active LDS that was coming, that was just interested in checking out what we have to offer. And so we have Christians come, they're interested in sharing their faith with Mormon people. Well, we have a lot of ex-Mormons who come. What we do is we host a dinner. We provide the main course, and we invite everybody to bring a side dish or dessert. And so we sit around, talk, share our experiences for a while, and then we'll have somebody come and share their experience of how they got out of Mormonism. And so we'll do that for about an hour. That individual field questions, and so it's a good personal way to get to know people, people who are questioning their faith too. And my wife and I also lead a weekly divorce care group. My wife and I have both been divorced, and we find that this is a great opportunity for Utah, which is Yeah, just about average. This state is average when it comes to divorce. So there are a lot of hurting people up here from a Mormon background they don't feel like going to church when they're going through a divorce. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because church for them is a place to show how worthy you are. Okay. Well, in a divorce care situation, we are very authentic. We share our junk and what we're going through, and so anyway, we find that this is kind of like a good halfway house to get Mormons eventually and other people into our church, to grow our church this way. And so that's more of a personal, intimate setting that doesn't require the confrontational preaching off the street, tell you the way it is, you know, repent or burn type approach, right? And so there are different ministries that we like to be involved in, and we see God using all of them in different ways. And there's a time for everything, as Solomon said in Ecclesiastes. And so we like being versatile in our approaches to reach out to more people. So that's what we're doing. I've got 2 daughters. I got a stepdaughter who's going to be 15 here next week, and I got, you guys met Karis, who's 16 months old, and so anyway, God's really blessed us up here, and we invite you to come and do ministry with us, and anybody else who wants to come. And so anyway, I'm thankful for the opportunity to share with you guys.
Perfect.